So Hare Krishna to everyone. Gradually, devotees will be joining us. People are coming in right now. This is being recorded as we did in the last two sessions and will also be made available to everyone. So I want to wish everyone a very warm Hare Krishna and a very warm, happy Krishna conscious New Year of 2021. Today I have a little audience with me, and therefore I will chant Jai Radha Madhava for a few minutes, and then we will immediately begin our class, which will be covering the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. I'm seeing many old faces, not old in the sense of old, but known faces. Welcome to everyone. We have right now just a few members. Gradually it should be increasing. Yes. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Pri Vradikacharya Stotra Satta Sri Simad His Divine Grace Hiraboy Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindaki ISKCON DVT Founder Acharya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrindaki Harinama Sankirtan Ki Grantarajna Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gaur Pimanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhuttale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Everyone may fold their hands and kindly repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam yat kripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. So once again, welcome to everyone. This is our third class presentation on the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. This month, today, we are also sitting at the same place as we were last month. We're not supposed to be here actually, but I will spare you the details of how that's happening. Next class should be in the forest at our project that we have that is referred to as Sayadri Goloka Dham, and from our Sayadri Parashuram Gurukula. Of course, for those who were not here just a few minutes ago when we started our session today, since we are at the very beginning of a new year, we'd like to again wish one and all
Hare Krishna.
Happy, prosperous, Krishna conscious new year of 2021. May all your Krishna conscious desires be fulfilled. Other
Hare
desires
Krishna.
we won't talk about. So today also is a special day because it is the disappearance of His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and who, as most of you know, is the spiritual master of our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. And I just want to read a short quote. Actually, you sent me a nice series of references. This is a short quote considering the time factor here. So this is a well-known and very important quote for all of us. Something that if any of you have not yet taken your New Year's vow, you might think about this one. And the verse goes as follows. Don't criticize devotees or non-devotees. Means don't criticize anyone. First, look at your own condition. First, look at your own condition and try to purify yourself. Try to purify yourself. Is there any lust in you? Is there any kutinati or deceit in you or not? Be worried for that. Don't worry for others. Sri Guru and Lord Sri Krishna are responsible for others. You cannot do anything to help them. So you have no right to criticize. So you have no right to criticize. I'll read this once again rapidly. Those who have the ability to put it to memory can do that. Otherwise, try to remember the gist of what is presented. Don't criticize devotees or non-devotees. First, look at your own condition and try to purify yourself. Is there any lust in you? Is there any kutinati, deceit in you or not? Be worried for that. Don't worry for others. Sri Guru and Lord Sri Krishna are responsible for others. You cannot do anything to help them. So you have no right to criticize. A direct quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Tirubhavtiti Mahamahotsav ki. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Today we are reading the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and actually what I decided to do in our last session was to actually read both the Sanskrit as well as the translation. We should take these sessions as an opportunity for us to hear directly what Sri Krishna spoke to Arjuna. Simply hearing this transcendental sound vibration will help us. And then whatever remaining time, it will vary from one session to another, because today's chapter, for example, happens to have quite a large number of verses, 72. We're on a little marathon here. It takes about 25 minutes. So listen carefully, especially to the translation, English translation. And this, after hearing these verses from the Bhagavad Gita, we will look at the two last verses actually, and try to make some comments. Many very important verses, because it's actually in the second chapter that Lord Krishna begins to instruct Arjuna. Krishna is not speaking in the first chapter. He's there, but he's not has not begun to speak to Arjuna. When I was coming to a Hare Krishna temple in the early days, one of the devotees told me, start reading the second chapter. Otherwise, for Western people, you get confused in the first chapter very easily. So would like to request those who are joining us to kindly mute yourselves so that we don't hear all kinds of noise in the background, which will be a disturbance for the speaker and those who are hearing as well. If you happen to have a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, you can follow along. And simply let us try to appreciate and imbibe these wonderful instructions which Lord Krishna actually begins at verse 11 of this chapter. Sanjaya uvacha tam tata kripaya bistam ashru purna kulekshanam vishidantam idam vakyam uvacha madhusudanaha. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana, Krishna, spoke the following words. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastva Kasmalam Idam Itame Samupastitam Anarya Justam Ashvarjam Akirti Karam Arjuna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. Klaibyamama sma gama partha naitat tvayu papadyate Shudram Ridaya Dorvalyam Chakvotista Parantapa. O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. Arjuna Uvacha Katam Bhishmam Aham Sankye Dronam Cha Madhusudana Ishubhi Pratayutsyami Pujar Havari Sudana. Arjuna said, O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counteract with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona who are worthy of my worship? Gurun nahatva hi maha nubhavan shreyo bhuktum bhaiksham api haloke advarta kamam stu gurun nihaiva bunjiya bhogan rudira pradigdhan. It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. Nachaitad vidma kataran nogaryo yadva jayema yadiva nojayeyuhu yane bahatva na jijibi shamas devastita pramuke dhartarastraha. Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. Yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield. karpanya dosho pahata swabhava prichami tvam dharma samudha chetaha yat shreyasyan nishchitam bruhitan me Shishyas deham shadhi mam tvam prapanam. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this connection, or in this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Nahi prapashyami mama panudyad yatshokam ishosanam indriyanam avapya bhumashva sapatnam vridam rajam suranam apicha divatyam. I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. Sanjaya uvacha evam uktva rishikesham gudakesha parantapaha Nayotsya iti govindam uktva tusnim ba bhuvaha. Sanjaya said, having spoken thus, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent. Tam uvacha rishikesha prahasanam iva bharata senayar ubhayar madhye vishidantam idam vachaha. O descendant of Bharata, at that time Krishna, smiling in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashochan Anvashochastvam Ragnavadam Shabashasi Gatasum Nanu Shochanti Panditaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Natvevaham jatunasam natvam maneme janadhipaha nachaivana bhavishyama sarve vayam ataparam. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Dehi nosmin yata dehi kumaram yovanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. O sober person, a sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Matra sparshas takunteya shitosna sukha dukkada agama paino nityas tam stitikshas svabharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course, or like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, ocean of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Yam hina vyatayantyete purusham purushashabha samadukka sukham dhiram somritat vaya kalpate. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubhayor apidristontas, tvanayos tattvadarshibhihi. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. Avinashi titad vidhi yena sarvam idam tatam vinasham avyayasya nakaschit arhati. That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Antavanta ime deha nitya shukta saririnaha anashino tameyasya tasmad yudyasva bharata. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Ya inam veti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubautau navijanito nayam mahanti nahanyate. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. Najayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita va nabhuyaha. Ajo nitya shasvato yam purano nahanyate hanyamane sarire. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Veda vinashinam nityam yainam ajam avyayam katham sapurusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Vasamsi nirjirnani yatha vihaya navani grinati naro parani tatha sarirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, nachainam kre dayantyapu, nashoshayati marutaha. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burnt by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Achedyoyam adayoyam akledyo shosya evacha nitya sarvagata stanur achaloyam sanatanaha. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burnt nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. Avyaktoyam achintyoyam abhikaryo yamuchyate tasmad evam vidit vainam nashu arhasi. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. Atachainam nityajatam nityam va manyase mritam tathapi tvam mahabahu nainam sochitum arhasi. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmad apariharyarte natvam shauchitum arhasi. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Avyaktadini bhutani vyakta madhyani bharata avyakta nidananyeva tatra ka paridevana. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? Ascharya vat pashyati kaschidinam ascharya vad vadati tathaiva chanyah ascharya vatshainam anyasrinoti srutvapyenam veda nachaiva kaschit. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Dehi nityam avadyoyam dehi sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitum arhasi. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. Swadharmam apicha vikshya tavikam pitum arhasi dharmyad dhi yudats sreyo nyat kshatriyasya navidyate. Considering your specific duty as a kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles and so there is no need for hesitation. Yadrischaya chopapanam svargadvaram apavritam sukhina kshatriya partha labhante yudham idrisham. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. Atachatvam imam adharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tatha swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. Akirtim chapi bhutani katha yishanti te vyayam sambhavitasya chakirtir manarad atirichyate. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. Bhayad ranad uparatam mansante tvam maharatah yesham chatvam bahu mato bhutva yasyasi laghavam. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Avachya vadams chabahun vadishanti tabahitaha nindantas taba samarthyam tato dukkha taram nukim. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? Hatoba prapsyasi svargam jitvava mukshase mahim tasmad utista kuntaya yudhaya kritinischayaha. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labho jaya jayo tato yudhaya yusjasva naivam papam avapsyasi. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. And by so doing, you shall never incur sin. Esate vihita sankye buddhire yoge tvimam srinu bhajya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahashyasi. Thus far I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. O son of Pritha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. Neha bikram nashosti pratyavayo navidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. In this endeavor there is no loss nor diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Vyavasayat mika buddhir Ekeha Kurunandana Bahu Shakha Yanantascha Bhuthayo Vyavasayinam. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. Yam imam pushpitam vacham prabhadam ya vipaschita vedavada rata partha nanyad astitivadinaha kamatmana swarga para janma karma phala pradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogeshwarya gatyam prati. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Bhogaisvarya prasaktanam taya parita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhao navidhiyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjana Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Yavanartha udapane sarvata samplutodake tavam sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanataha. All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. Karmanyeva dikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetur bhur mate sango swakarmani. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause or the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo mo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Perform your duty equiposed, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Dhirena yavaram karma buddhi yogad dhananjaya buddho saranam anvishta kripana phalahetabaha. O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita duskrite tasmad yogaya yuj yasva yoga karmasu koshalam. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions, even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. Karmajam buddhi yuktahi phalam chaktva manishinaha janma bandha vina vinir mukta padam gacchanchana mayam. By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead. Yadate moha kalinam buddhir vyavasthirasyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavasya shrutasya cha. When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. Shruti vipratipannate yat yada sasyati nischalam samadavachala buddhis tada yogam avapsyasi. When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. Arjuna Uvacha Stita Pragnasya Kabhasa Samadhi Sasyaki Shava Stita Dhi Kim Prabhaseta Kim Asita Vracheta Kim. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak, and what is his language? How does he sit, and how does he walk? Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatam Atmani Vatmana Tusta Stita Pragmas Tato Jate. The Supreme Personality of God had said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. Dukeshvanut vignamanaha sa sukeshu vigata spriyaha vitaraga bhayakrodha stitatir muniruchate. One who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, or who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. Ya sarvatra nabhishnehas tat tat prapya subha shubham na bhinandati nadvasti tasya pragna pratistita. In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in knowledge. Yada samharate chayam kurmon Ganiva sarvashaha indriyanindriyartebhyas tasya pragnata pratistita. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects as a tortoise draws its limbs within the shell is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinam rasavarjam rasopyasya param dristva nivartate. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense object remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Etato yapi kuntaya purushasya vipasya Indriyani pramattini haranti prasabham manaha. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asitamatparaha vashehi yasyandriyani tasya prajna pratistita. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. Dhyato vishayanna pumsa sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodo vijayate. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, samohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti vamshad buddhi nasat pranashyati. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Ragadvesha vimuktaisthu vishayan indriyaischaran atmavashair videyatma prasadam adhikasyati. But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Prasade sarva dukkanam anir asyo prajayate prasanna chitaso hyashu buddhi paryavatistate. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayata shantir ashantasya kuta sukham. One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? Indriyanam hi charatam yanamano nu vidhiyate tadasya harati pragnam vayur navam ivam vasim. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Tasmad yasya mahabhahu nigriyantani sarvashaha indriyanindriyartebhyas tasya prajna pratistita. Therefore, O mighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. Ya nisha sarvabhutanam tasyam jagati samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sanisha pasyato munehe. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. Apuryamanam achala pratistham samudram apa prabhishanti advat tadvat kamayam prabhishanti sarve sashantim apnoti nakami kami. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Vihaya kaman yasarvan pumams charati nispriyaha nirmano nirahankara sashantim adhikasyati. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. Esha Brahmi Stiti Partha Nainam Prapya Vimukyati Stitavasyam Antakalepi Brahma Nirvanam Rishyati. That is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. Hare Krishna. Because we chanted at the beginning of our session today, we are running late, especially if we look at the local clock here, which is 5-10 minutes ahead. I have been reading actually this chapter for the last 1 month, knowing that today I would be speaking on it. And of course, some of you might find that there are too many instructions. Of course, there are many instructions, very, very essential instructions being given here. I'll just give one short paragraph, which is a reference to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who says the following. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has summarized this second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita as being the contents of the whole text of the whole Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matters are Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. In the second chapter, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga have been clearly discussed, and a glimpse of Bhakti Yoga has also been given as the contents for the complete text. So this chapter is especially of great importance whenever there's any member of the family who passes away, because Krishna immediately begins to explain to Arjuna the difference between the body and the soul. Dehinosmin yata dehe. So many of these wonderful verses in this chapter can be quoted. Actually, the whole chapter can be read, or at least a portion, for those who are experiencing the loss of a loved one in the family. Because what Krishna is basically telling is that actually we don't die. It's only the body which is compared to a garment, or just like we change our dress every day, but actually we remain the same. So the soul, who is the person that we actually are meant to know, that individual, that personality never dies. And therefore, this can only be understood, however, as Krishna nicely explains and summarizes at the end here, if one gets off the gross bodily platform of sense gratification, and if one also gets off of the mental platform of mental speculation. Activities of sense gratification on the bodily platform and all kinds of material desires and material attachments are what bind us in this material world. And therefore we have to come to the higher platform of purified or transcendental intelligence. The spirit soul by nature is that spiritual intelligence, that spiritual mind, and also that spiritual body. We have a spiritual body. Actually, not we have, we are. We are the spiritual body. And we have spiritual senses. And those spiritual senses will fully satisfy us when they are awakened to their nature. Naturally, we cannot do justice to the good instructions given by Krishna. In this short reading, I would request and urge everyone to reread various sections of this chapter. And in this way, the more we understand that we are not this body, that we are eternal spirit souls, we will learn not to be overly disturbed by the innumerable dualities and complexities that this material world actually presents. So therefore, dhira means sober-minded. We can only become dhira or sober-minded when we come to that higher platform, transcendental platform. And therefore, as long as we remain on the gross bodily platform of karma, or if we remain on the mental platform of jnana, then we will we cannot be happy in that state. I I will take 2 minutes if there's any quick question, possibly, and any additional questions that might be there, we can look at possibly next week. And let's see, I see a hand up. Yes, Akinchana Krishna Prabhu from Dubai, please speak.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Dandat Pranams.
Haribo.
Guru Maharaj, one verse which you had read today, 2.69, in
2,
which 0.69.
Okay, 69. Yeah, go ahead.
In that, Krishna is saying, what is night for all beings is a time of awakening for the self-controlled. And what is the time of awakening for all? So Guru Maharaj, what is the material night, or the relation, what Prabhupada is trying to say in the purport? So what is the night for the spiritual being, and what is the night for the materialists? If you could just give a little more, some examples or something.
Yes, well, I'll give you a very concrete example. The question being to further explain the meaning or the purport of verse 69. We know that for the materialistic persons, their day begins at night, nightlife. You know, devotees go to bed when the karmis actually go out at night. So our night, when we take rest so that we can get up in the morning, is their day. You know, after work, that's where their activities of sense gratification begins. And when we get up for Mangalarti, the karmis are sleeping. That's a simple example that can show us how, just like Krishna also explains, Krishna, Surya, Sama, Maya, Hai, Andakar. Krishna, anything connected with Krishna, day or night, anything connected with Krishna is like the sun, light. And for those who are not connected with Krishna, it is Andakar, Maya. Maya means ignorance. So that's another angle or another way of understanding this explanation or this verse that is being given here. In other words, those who are conscious, Krishna conscious, enlightened, they see things in a completely different way than non-devotees. And therefore, our acharyas invite us, urge us, request us to see things in the light of Shastra, Shastra Chakshu, seeing things through the eyes of Shastra, because the eyes of Shastra are perfect. Whereas the materialistic people try to see things with their material eyes, and naturally their material eyes are imperfect. I hope this throws a little bit more light on
Yes,
the
Maharaj.
others, okay? I mean, more could be said, but our time is short. I've already gone overboard, and Sampakalata Devidasi can say something. If it's a question,
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
go ahead. Yeah.
Dandavats Maharaj.
Haribo.
Maharaj, I have a question. I'll try to keep it very, very short. Maharaj, in the initial days of my Krishna consciousness, definitely at one particular point, I certainly felt on one day that, I'm embodied, I'm a soul.
Right.
I'm not this body. But ever since then, though I read this chapter many times and I have been chanting for so long, for about 18 years now, I am very, very body conscious. And how is it that, I'm not coming to the real kind of realization?
Okay. Well, it is good to notice that we are not as Krishna conscious as we should be. And in the early, actually, when we come to Krishna consciousness, many of us, if not most of us, we pick up from where we left off. And we often get some very wonderful realizations. Then we start to practice, and then we seem to kind of like uh, go on a linear level where we seem to be finding ourselves too much on the bodily platform and not seemingly making any advancement. So the idea is that advancement is there, even though we may not always be conceiving or be noticing it. And also, of course, one needs to analyze one's position and one's activities. If we are either intentionally or unintentionally performing activities which are impeding our progress in Krishna consciousness, then that will prevent us from actually realizing the higher aspects, especially that we are a spirit soul, and as a spirit soul, we should be experiencing, as Krishna explains in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that verse, Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam, Pavitram, Idam Uttamam, Susukam Kartab Avyayam, that performing devotional activities, when performed properly, nicely, will actually, we will be able to experience. So one should not become discouraged. That happens in any practice of spiritual life. We have different periods. Sometimes they will be like, we could say, more flat. We may seemingly not experience things that we might have experienced possibly as a new devotee. We should know for certain that as long as we are making that endeavor to practice nicely Krishna consciousness, following the instructions as given by Guru, Krishna, and Sadhu, then we are progressing, even though we may not always be experiencing it. So still we should continue, and in due course of time, Krishna will help us gain greater realizations and greater insights, and we will in this way receive Krishna's grace. Again, more could be said on that, but our time is very short, so possibly we might comment on that a bit more next week. I again want to take this opportunity. We have a few more people online right now. Thank you all very much for attending our reading of Bhagavad Gita. Please do continue to read on a regular basis, especially Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is that book of knowledge that can actually save ourselves individually, because it's a universal book of knowledge. And also, if more and more people in the world come in contact with this knowledge, then the whole world can actually find its way out of the complexities of material life, especially in modern day society. And again, I want to wish everyone a happy new Krishna conscious year of 2021. I look forward to seeing you again next week, not next week, next month, and this time in the Sayadri forest site. Again, thank you all very much. We can all chant together one time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama,
Hare.
Hare Hare.
Two more times. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Hare.
Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Hare Hare.
Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare
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 Rama, Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama, Hare Hare.
So wherever you may be, may Krishna protect all of you and give all his blessings. And Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.